Some of you know him real well, and so I'm going to share a few things about him before he gets up to speak that always amaze me. He was born in 1930, so that gives away age, I guess, but he was the son of a sharecropper. His mother died when he was 7 months old. His father left the family, and John was raised by his grandmother and extended family during that time. In 1947, he moved to Mississippi on the urging of a family who worried that he might be in danger following the fatal shooting of his brother, Clyde, by a police officer. He settled in Southern California for a bit in 1957, and he met the Lord, and he began to understand how a son can have an impact in a father's life, and that was an amazing story in itself. In the 1960, he moved with his precious wife and children from California back to Mississippi, and not far from his childhood home. Today, Dr. Perkins is the president of the John and Vera Mae Perkins Foundation in Jackson, Mississippi. And his tireless work has certainly given him honorary doctorate degrees by just about everybody as I looked on that list. But it's just a pleasure to have Dr. Perkins here and come and join us.
I've got to pull myself together here. Biblical joy is the fulfillment of long-time expectation. The greatest evening in the history of the world was the fulfillment of Job before the Bible, long-time expectation. Job said, I know that my Redeemer liveth, and that he will stand in the latter days upon this earth. Even though worms may destroy this body, he said, but in my flesh will I see the Lord, whom I will see for myself and not another. And that evening on the Bethlehem hills, the biblical thought is that angels cannot sing. That's a biblical thought. But they broke loose that night and sang, it could have been, behold, I bring you good news of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this night in the city of David a Savior. A Savior from sin, which is Christ the Lord. That's the greatest joy. That joy ought to compel us. The gratitude for that redemption should compel us to go into all the world, tell the world about this redemptive love. So that's one part of my joy. The other part of my joy is to be here in this place, in this city, and to would have developed these long-time relationships and hope. Art Harrison, you're one of those, but there's other, Governor Kidd, and many others in this room. Those long-time relationships. And to be in this room here tonight, and then the hope I had for black leadership, that we could overcome that long enslavement, that long doubt about whether or not we was person, and believe that this God of heaven raises up leaders to lead his people. So much doubt, so much fear. That's what Governor Q helped me so much. Those 16 years I served on Prison Fellowship Board at the early days of that ministry. who wanted to see leadership raised up, and he understood that the black population in the prison was what it was, 60%, 70%, or whatever percent it was, is completely out of proportion to the population. We know that. And we know all of the causes of that. We could give you all the causes for that. And most of those causes had their roots in that long time captivity, slave captivity. And then I understand, blacks, I understand that. Their reaction to forming the church and to forming that reconciliation oneness, because they had been disciplined. They were going to lose the black population. The intellectual, educated was going to leave. We understood that, and I could understand that in these small populations. But that long-time captivity has created enough doubt. Think of this doubt. Think of this doubt. This ought to give it that black is beautiful. To think of that doubt. That's about as much doubt as you can put on. Because the greatest declaration that ever been penned about human dignity was, we hold these truths to be self-evident. That you can't be no more than self-evident. That all human beings are created equal, as endowed by their Creator with certain rights, chief among those are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That I have to raise my hand to say that black is beautiful, tell you about long-time captivity. And doubt that the God of creation can find us and make us shepherds, and that we could give leadership. Amen. I'm glad Martin Luther King didn't have that doubt in life. I'm glad of that. That we can love people. It took a lot for me. It took me going through torture in a jail in Brandon, Mississippi, for me to see the damage of racism and bigotry upon the behavior, the mindset of people. It was in that jail that night when I was being tortured. Y'all don't know what torture is. Nobody understands basically what torture is. When you are tortured, you will do two things. You will tell the truth and you'll say whatever the torturers want you to say. What are you talking about? What are you talking about here? That night in that jail, I saw the damage of white people. That they had to brutalize in captivity this black person that they couldn't control mentally. Who thought that he might have been created in the image of God? Maybe. That was dangerous. That was dangerous. That they had to brutalize me in order to feel a sense of worth. It was in that jail I said to God, I said, God, now I know I was bribing God. I'm from a bribing family. I'm from a bootlegging family, so I'd had a lot of experience in that. You know, but I know I was bribing God. I said, God, if you let me out of this jail this night, alive, I want to preach a gospel that is stronger than my black interests. I want to preach a gospel that is stronger than white interests. I want to preach a gospel that can reconcile whites, blacks together into one body. I'd like to see a movement of that. Thank you, guys. Yeah. I think I have a little hint. Minnesota was never a slave state. That's a curse. That's a curse that is hard to break. Because supremacy is a biggie. It's just as big as inferiority. it create uncivilized behavior that I'm just deciding, talking about. That's what Ku Klux Klan was. They were poor white folk that failed. And they need to be in charge of somebody just because they was white. In society. I'm living to see that curse being broke. It's the most fervent movement in my 84 years of church planting in this nation. Never been nothing like it. Because most churches plant angry already. They was breaking up into denominations. And it was First Baptist, Second Baptist, Third Baptist, First Corinthians, Second Corinthians. They was mad already. And white folks the same way. They was dividing up into white denominations. Mad with each other all way. It was not the institution of love. But to see this whole youth movement, God is almost raising up. Listen to me. I know you're going to get uptight. You don't want it to be this way. I know you're going to get uptight what I'm going to say. There is the merging being born, and I'm meeting them in Mississippi in the schools all across the state, whites and blacks. They're emerging a new post-racist people who see value in diversity. We are becoming an international world. They are going around the country. I'm meeting them everywhere, paying their own way, going around the world to be a part of, to learn, not to colonize, not to exploit, but going there for their own lives to be enriched by those other people that they are going for. This is a new day. This is what we would call a Kairos moment. And if we let this moment, let me tell you a story. This is something to me, and I'm going to sit down, we're going to have a good time. In 1968, after Martin Luther King was killed, Bill Bright gathered what was known, it was a small group that was calling themselves the Black National Evangelical Association. On the other side, there was the National White Evangelical Association. And there was a reaction to the white by the blacks that created the black. But Bill Bright, after Martin Luther King was killed, you would have had to been here. Governor Q would understand that, and some of the others in here. You would have understood what that meant. That he had voice at 2 times. We just wrote a book about this. You need to get it. It's about his letter to the pastors in the Birmingham jail. That was the first one. And then the March on Washington, where he articulated our longing. Our longing. I have a dream. He dreamed our dream out loud. He outlined it. He told us when it would be fulfilled. When my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. That will be the day when black, white, Jew, and Gentile could join hands and sing together, free at last. Because we're going to set each other free. Free at last. Free to love each other. That moment is here. That moment is here. You might want to hang on to it. You might want to back up in it. You might want to take your fear. It's easy to do that. To not have to confront it. You can't stop it. God is in this. God is in this. And, you know, I meet people all the time. I'm a lifetime member of the NAACP, okay? I send my $100 every year. So I'm a lifetime member. But sometimes I hear them say, let's don't be integrated. They're going to take over everything that we got. So let's hold on to what we got, and they're going to take it away. You can't re-enslave a generation that has been free. That's why we haven't won the last 4 wars. Do y'all don't know why we haven't won the last 4 wars? Afghanistan is not going to be colonized again. They ran France out of there, they ran Russia out of there, and they ran America out of there. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? We got to assume our freedom. And I believe the church is the institution that can do it. Amen. It's the only one that I've heard of that says the gates of hell cannot prevail against it. Back to this thing, and I'll be through. Back to, we came together at Lake Airhead, and I remember that. All of us angry blacks, and Bill Bright brought us together, and he had, while his aides was there, he had to do it. He had to do it. He had to lead the meeting, and we had certain of our leaders, we met together. I remember saying to Dr. Bright, he was wondering, what can we do? He wanted to learn, what could we do? He was sincere, that was him. He wanted to evangelize the world, that was he. He built the greatest evangelistic outreach in the history of the world. I guess you know that. It was called, his crew now, great name change, at a crucial time in history, Campus Crusade. And, but I said they were trying to get a black here, and they couldn't find a black, and I thought, back in the day, this is a joke, I started get me an agent that would give white folks rent a black to them. Back in those days, they needed a black. I could have been rich if I'd have got me an agent and got me a few black people and rented them out to white folk. You know, I could have been a rich man. I could have been richer than the guy who started the Kelly Girls. I could have rented out me some black because they were needing some black. And I say to Bill, I said to that meeting, what you want ain't yet. Blacks couldn't go to Bob Jones University. Black couldn't go to no schools down here. Now you're asking for something that's not here. You're asking for blood out of a turnip. Y'all should know that one. I said, what we need to do, don't stop it. I don't ever tell people to stop doing what they're doing. I don't ever tell people to stop that. I said, but in addition to being on these campuses, you ought to go out there and get the black pastors together and come up with a way of wrapping your arm and your resources and your good theology in some places. Bad sociology. Bad sociology. They didn't know that. Bad sociology, but good theology. You know. And you get there and then put those young people to raising up young leaders at a local church level. And in 10 years, you'll have some people. I'd had to close my agent down. And that's what we did. We was in that, renting a black from over here, renting a black, find us a black to rent him so he could be over here. And so we almost, in society. But thank God, Crew is there. They experimented with it in New York. I worked with them all there. They went to New York. And they started working with it. They learned a lot in Harlem and other places. Now Keller is there. White folks are taking their privilege and using that as a weapon against us now. Because their privilege have paralyzed them. I meet them all the time. And so since we are rich and got all this, we are guilty. And what can we white folks do now? That's an excuse for action. He needed to do the same thing to both of us. Take that foolish fear and racism away And let's join our hands together and make that church that the world will know we are Christian because of the love that we have one for another across racial and culture barriers, and cut out this genocide in the world and be the people of God and fulfill his idea, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as in heaven. Who are all of these here? These are they that came out of great tribulation, from every nation and tongue, and who washed their garments in the blood of the Lamb. And that's why we are praising God day and night. I am living to spend, and people say, why was I in Chicago the day before yesterday? And why am I in my favorite city here today? And why am I going to be in New Mexico tomorrow, the next day? Why is an 84-year-old guy is going to Malaya to speak to the international conference of cities that are meeting there, just returned from China, meeting in China, and then on my way almost from China, not quite, stopped in Jamaica to speak to the cabinet of the prime minister, who invited us to come there because of the crime and the violence in the villages of the world. We are at an opportune time right now, and what is going on here in this city is a prototype. You didn't work in vain, guys. You didn't work in vain. Art, you didn't work in vain. You didn't work in vain. Well, I wanted us to have some time to talk. I think the question would be a little bit, why do I persevere, keep going? Let me say that quickly. I think this is important because I think that's what, I never believed in burnout. I still don't believe in burnout. I believe you're tooting your own horn and burning your own gas. The biblical idea of the Christian faith is that Christ wants to live his life out in us. Ain't no burnout there. He is eternal life. And he is the quality of life. I've come that you might have life and you might have it qualitatively, abundantly in life. In life. And so what then have shaped my life, and I think that's what we got to do. First of all, I heard the good news that God loved me. Galatians 2:20 brought me into the kingdom. That's the message. That's the message. For God so loved the world. God's motivation for redemption was his love and his justice. Why shouldn't he? We should put people in the corner when they leave out justice. We should say it can't be a religion without justice. That's the biblical question in the Bible. How can God be just and justify you and me? So God's love, and if God loved us and created in his image, why wouldn't he be just? Tell me that. If he created humanity to bear his likeness on earth, when I look in your face, this is as close as I can get to God. This is close as I can get to God. Why shouldn't he be just then? Well, that first slave ship messed us up. That first slave ship, and we accommodated that all men are created equal, that we were going to be that kingdom nation from all nations under God with liberty and justice for all. That messed it up. And the church caved into it. God is doing it now. I'm confident that God is doing it. Confident that God. Okay, so, boy, I need to stop here. Well, I think it was that discipleship when I was first converted. And the verse that they discipled me around was Acts 1:8. And that's the last words of Jesus. The mission is the mission of carrying this powerful gospel that can redeem humanity from racism and bigotry, taking that gospel to every ethnic group on earth. That's what Acts 1:8 says. The other thing that he discipled me around was discipleship itself. 2 Timothy 2:2. That's what you've heard of me among many witnesses, that commit unto faithful men and women who shall be able to, faithful. Faithfulness is the first virtue, it's the last virtue. Faithfulness. Discipleship then, understand the mission, understanding how to get there, and to raise up from that ethnic group indigenous leaders who could then welcome other peoples to the table and not feel threatened. Indigenous leaders within the community. That's what I've got in my life. God have had to deal with me along the way. But the very fact I was discipleship in it, I could come back to it. God could get it to it. So thank y'all. I am the one honored in being here. To be here to see it. And to see those who struggle to make this time to bring us to where we at. These church planting, intentional church planting network are all over the country, and I'm with all of them. I would be honored to be their chaplain. I would be honored to be their encourager, because I think we're in a position that we have never been in America, and that we live to see that. I think we got plenty of work to do. I think we got to continue to work the prison. We got to continue to expand these sentences. That's got to be a new profession, and that's for the lawyers. So there's a lot of stuff that we still got to do. We got to come up with an educational system that teaches our kids. You know, there's a lot we got to do. But boy, we're at a moment in history, and I'm just here really to encourage you. I'll say what Thomas Kenner used to say, art, all the time when he would finish. Keep on keeping on. We got something here. God done restored something to his church, and he wants us to be good stewards of that.